welcome to another episode of Ask the Doulas with Gold Coast Doulas. I am Alyssa Venaclaus. I am co-owner and postpartum doula. Today we are talking to a client, Lisa, again. Hello, Lisa.
Hello.
Last time we talked about her and her husband's struggle with fertility and how that looked for her. And just to kind of recap, it took them about 2.5 years. And then she ended up with an emergency C-section 5 weeks early. So we're going to talk about what her life looked like once she got home. So Ethan spent 5 days in NICU, and you said you were ready. You were ready after that, like 5 days was enough. Is that because it was scary having a baby in the NICU, or you just wanted to go home?
Everything is very medical and monitored, and there's definitely a separation between the natural kind of mother and child bonding, I think, that happens in those early hours, those early days. So for example, when I had the C-section, they wouldn't actually let me go visit him until I was able to get up out of bed by myself and go to the bathroom. So I ended up not being able to see him for the first 17 hours.
You were like, I will get up and pee by myself.
If this is the last thing that I do, I'm going to get out of the bed and go pee. So, and that made me anxious because I was literally sitting in this Holiday Inn, right? This hospital bed by myself, in a room by myself, because my husband was with the baby doing skin to skin. And I was counting the minutes, when do I get to go meet him?
So 5 days later, you get to bring him home.
8 days
later.
8 days later.
Yep, 8 days.
We bring him home.
Okay.
And it was so funny because as much as I wanted to leave the NICU, the minute we got home, he wasn't hooked up to a monitor, so you don't know his oxygen saturation levels. You don't know his temperature. You don't know all these things that the machines are telling you. And I literally was fearful that he was going to die in the middle of the night. I'm like, well, he's just going to stop breathing, and I'm not going to know because the beeper isn't going to go off. And so then I had this anxiety about not having all of the faculties that you have in the hospital. But luckily, we knew right from the beginning that we had a birth doula who played a very different role than what I expected her to play in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. How did your birth doula end up supporting you with a emergency C-section?
She was she didn't make it to the hospital in time because it happened basically in 45 minutes, and so she just, with the distance away, she couldn't get there. But she sat with me in the room after I recovered for several hours when I was coming down off the gas and stuff that you get. Yeah. Was that gas? No, it's not. It's an injection. But anyway, when you're kind of really coming out of the stuff that they give you. And that was really helpful. I'm glad that I wasn't alone then. But we knew that we also wanted a postpartum doula. Neither of us had been around babies very much in our adult life, and we wanted somebody who was an expert, with infants that knew kind of the research and the range of what are the options, when I have a question about, I don't know, sleeping or whatever. That would be a great one because we did struggle a lot with sleeping. What are the different approaches and why, and what are the pros and cons to each? I talked a lot, to my postpartum doula about sleeping and how to encourage sleeping, create the right environment and all of that. But otherwise, I didn't know what I was doing. I was also recovering from an abdominal surgery, and I just plain needed help. I was struggling kind of getting up and down stairs because it was still quite painful.
Right.
And so we had a postpartum doula come in every morning from 6 to 9 a.m., through the work week. And then on the weekends, Jed and I were together. So then we were able to kind of tag team, and that was, that's obviously different. And then we also did have several overnight stays. But even simple things, the postpartum doula helped me with was, how do you get up with a new baby, at least get yourself in the shower, and eating breakfast before you're kind of, down on the couch, nursing them for the first time or for the first nap during the day. And I think that would have taken me weeks to figure out.
Like, if I get up a half an hour early and try to get in the shower.
Yes. Yeah. And just, a shower and, eating before you're starting the whole rigmarole of the day, especially when you're breastfeeding, because I was really hungry. That makes a huge difference.
Well, and most women, especially in the beginning when you feel like you're nursing all the time. And you're so hungry and so thirsty. And then they tell me, well, I don't have time. You need to make time. Yes. If you're not drinking, you're not eating, your milk supply is just going to start to slowly diminish.
Well, and then I couldn't do things like go to the grocery store. You know, that was a big challenge. Or do any type of meal planning. And so then our postpartum doula, we said, this is the food that we like. And so she created basically some meals, went to the grocery store, brought them back, did some or all of the food prep for the different meals. And so that was just life-saving as well. But mostly I think it's real, for me, it was a trusted partner. Right. Like, who can I just ask, anything to, and it be just fine? And maybe it's lack of, knowledge for me, or just, I don't know who else to ask this question.
Well, it's overwhelming your first time.
Yeah.
You literally know nothing. Very little, I
didn't even know how to swaddle. Swaddling was a big learning curve for me. I never really got it tight enough. In the beginning, I eventually
just
did.
Kind of like a ninja his way out.
He did. Yeah, but so that this woman, this angel of mine, her name was Kate, and she was wonderful.
Now we didn't mention that you lived in Seattle at this point.
Right.
So you were not in Grand Rapids. No. When did you find out you were moving?
When our son was 3 months old.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, maybe no. Yeah, 3 months. Yep, 3. He had just
because you got here when he was about 4 months, right? So you had a month to prepare. So
we had a month.
How was that?
It was, I think I was in a little bit of denial about how much needed to be done. We decided to spend more money to push the easy button. So we had everything. We hired movers to actually pack us for the first time, as well as do the cross-country move. And that was worth every dime that we spent, even though that is, not cheap. It was really worth it. And I just focused on trying to get, my recovery and my baby and the bonding, and just let all that other stuff go.
So then you got here.
Yeah.
And you had Judd's family is here.
Yes.
You have no family here.
Right.
And your doula in Seattle found me.
So then I was talking to her and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know anybody there. How am I going to unpack into a new house, meet anybody, and she's like, oh, well, let me just, I'll do some looking for you today. And she came back the next day and she was like, I found somebody. And it was Alyssa. And I was like, perfect. At least I have a doula that I can totally lean on. And and that was you. And
we met, and the rest is history, right?
And then the rest is history.
Yeah.
And my husband's family helped us move, into the house, and that was unbelievably helpful. I still have mom brain.
It never goes away.
I transpose these words and they don't make sense.
It's not pregnancy brain, it's mom brain.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I'm really glad that we moved. I think it was a really, really hard time. I think moving, maybe if you can wait till your baby's closer to 1 or something like that, might be, that would be an easier transition for the mom, just because you're so exhausted.
Yeah.
In the beginning. But, Grand Rapids is really family friendly, and I'm just so appreciative of that. And I feel like it's a good place to raise kids.
Yeah.
So
We're glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. And I'm glad to have met you. Thank goodness for you.
Yeah, we worked, 8 months, maybe 7 months.
Yeah.
Off and on. I mean, it was a lot in the beginning.
About a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. At a year, I kind of felt like, oh.
Yeah.
Like the weight of all of being a new mom kind of lifted a little bit for me. And I just felt more confident, I guess.
Well, and he was gaining so much more independence that it was almost, I remember one day you saying, it's so great. Like, he's sitting up and he's doing all these things, but he's not my little baby anymore. You know, it was like this, I'm so glad he's doing this because now he can play by himself for a little bit on the floor and I can actually go sit down and eat or do dishes or something. But you struggled with this, like, he's my baby. Like, he's not my little baby anymore and he's doing all these other things. And I think we all struggle with that. Especially, me, I only have one child. So every phase, every developmental stage, good and bad.
That's the only
love
one
it.
You get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's, a piece of advice I give, especially if you're only having one and you may end up trying for more, who knows, but, it helps you get through the hard times. Like, even the sleepless nights, it's all temporary because soon he's going to be 8, right? And he's not going to want to sleep with you and he's not going to want to wake up. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to wake him up.
That's great. I can't even imagine that. He's still waking up probably 3 times.
Yeah.
Religiously.
Yeah.
Every night. But it's a lot better than what he was.
You're getting sleep.
So, yeah. I'm getting enough sleep now.
Yeah.
I'm not
I can tell.
Crazy like I was. Sleepless, crazy. An hour or 45 minutes of contiguous sleep all during the day, if that's all you get, that is not enough for a person to have their, wits about them. No. It's just not.
No. I think we'll talk next about so next time you hear from Lisa, we're going to talk about the effects of sleep deprivation and how, kind of a pregnancy journey that doesn't go as planned, along with sleep deprivation and an emergency C. So all these things, like, how does that play in your brain? So we'll stay tuned. We'll talk next to Lisa about that. And thank you for sharing today.
Thanks.